Well, hello, welcome. Today I had every intention of going outside and painting plein air, but it's a really gray day here where we live, and I'm just a little short on time. I won't be able to get my stuff together, get back to the house, and get to work on time. So that's a little disappointing, but silver lining in this is a couple of things. One, as I was getting my gear together, I found one of my little small homemade panels. Found some of my sketchbooks in my backpack, so those had been missing for a while. And I do have some good reference materials. I'm gonna paint a little portrait format painting, a little nocturne. It's going to feature some cool effects involving the moon filtering through the pine needles and some stars way up in the sky. And I'm going to deviate quite a bit from that reference photo when it comes to composition, because I'm working with a 9 by 12 inch canvas board, which is something that I'm not a real big fan of. I just don't like the texture feel and the inconsistency that you get in the texture with these canvas boards, especially the inexpensive ones that I tend to work with. But it's around, it's material that I purchased, and therefore I should use. So I have a remnant palette here from some previous paintings. That includes a burnt umber, cad red, cadmium orange, a little bit of cadmium yellow. Have some ultramarine blue and sap green, and a mixture of sap green and ultramarine blue and burnt umber. I'm going to add some pigments to this mix here. I know that I'm going to need some other colors in order to make this work the way that I'm hoping to configure this painting. So we'll get some titanium white, and I'm at the very end of this tube here. So maybe it's a good thing I didn't go out, because I probably would have run out mid-painting with what I had planned. And I'm going to get some Payne's gray on the canvas, on the palette as well. So I got to replace my Payne's gray, my titanium white here. You know what, an ultramarine blue is running a little low, so I got 3 tubes of paint. That's probably $60 worth of paint at least. And I'm gonna have to replace soon. But I also have my linseed oil. That's the extent of any solvent that I use, and then again my 9 by 12 inch canvas. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my reference materials here kind of organized. For the most part, I'm just using a photo that I took while I was walking the dog just 2 evenings ago. And I'm gonna go ahead and get one of my disgusting, nasty, old chip brushes. And I may end up incorporating some ivory black into the palette, but for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get some linseed oil going and get a nice thin coat of this ultramarine blue. Spread on the canvas board. So if you've been watching the channel lately, you may have noticed I've been painting a lot. almost every day. And I gotta tell you, it's a good practice. Definitely helps. It's almost like a virtuous cycle. You know, ideas just keep coming. Whereas when you go through periods of inconsistent activity, creativity kind of slows and you become a slave to inspiration. You know, painting every day, if you're into this sort of thing, is a wonderful thing. Okay. So we got a blue coat on there, and we're gonna strip some of that off and probably get, it's the first of many layers. I'm gonna get my paper towel. Go ahead and just work the paper towel around, push the paint around, get it into all the nooks and crannies within this canvas board here. And we'll start seeing some themes maybe with the textures that we can pick up on. At this point, we're just staining the canvas, and dominant color here in this nocturne scene is going to be blue. Mess with this little cradle here and just make sure that get the whole canvas board covered. Might leave that out of the cradle. I got my gloves on, so I just want to be able to work the whole canvas board. Okay. Right. Good so far. Now I'm gonna go ahead and grab another chip brush and I'm gonna just blot it out and wring out any of the excess storage solution that I have in there and paint. This one happens to have a little bit of burnt umber mixed in, which is fine. And I'm going to go ahead and build in using some Payne's gray, just some indication of some of the shadowy areas that are going to be within my pine trees here. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and just play with the shapes here a little bit. This is a scene where we're looking up while we're walking the dog. So we're going to see some gaps in the trees, not many. And then we're gonna again go back into our Payne's gray, and we're gonna have another twin tree alongside this one, roughly the same height. Make sure that this paint is still pretty loose. And these aren't the only trees that are going to be part of this scene, but these are kind of like the main characters. We will also have some evidence of maybe an oak tree with some branches coming up. These come across like this. And it might look like too much initially here, and that's okay. We could always cut some sky holes in and change the dynamic we have going on. I'm noticing there's a big pretty big glare, so I'm going to try and adjust my lighting. That's a little better there. It's tough with a darker painting like this. And I don't have professional lighting in here, so, but I think you can get a sense for what we've going on. All right. So I'm just taking a step back and looking, and I feel good about what we have so far. I'm going to set this brush aside. All right. I'll go back into my blue. I'm going to work in a separate puddle of a mixture of the Payne's gray and the blue. And toward the top of our sky here, we're going to darken it a little bit. Obviously, or maybe not so obviously, that maybe is a little too dark, but that's okay. Work that down. Come back in a second here and blend that. And do some work with paper towel as well. All right. From paper towel. I'll lift some of that paint off and work it in just gently, just blotting the paper towel in this area where we put that darker mixture of blue and Payne's gray. And if you're doing some sort of painting like this for the first time, you know, try and be as free as you can. You can always fix, especially with oil paints, probably one of the most forgiving mediums, which is why I enjoy them. Go ahead and grab a brush. A newer chip brush here, and I'm just gonna blend these two colors together. This is the first of probably several attempts to blend this that I'll have to make. Just go diagonal, up, down. Trying not to touch the treetops if I can avoid it. And then lift up as well. Just want to diffuse that light a little bit so the line is a little less obvious. Having a hard time talking lately. And once again, the glare from my lighting is presenting some challenges. Let's see what that looks like when I shut that light off. There we go. That's close to what we're going for. We'll add one additional kind of gradation of darkness toward the top. And the moon is lower in the sky. You often see this effect where toward the top of the night sky, as long as there's no other lighting interfering, it'll be much, much darker. I'll go ahead and turn my light back on. We'll try to make adjustments as we go. With this, it's a little tricky. with these particular colors. So I apologize for that, but we're gonna build some, whoops, wrong brush, wrong brush, wrong brush. Another band of dark way toward the top here. And we'll kind of make it concave, almost as if the Earth's atmosphere is following the curvature of the Earth. Maybe have some fun with that there. It's not necessarily what I see in my reference materials or what I observed outside, but thinking it might work here. There we go. I'll turn the light off again. You can see. Now we'll continue to blend that, and that'll shift and change as we lighten up the area where the moon is coming through. We might even darken the very, very top a little bit more than it currently is. Just kind of in an attempt to modulate the darkest darks in the sky versus the lightest lights to hopefully create the enhanced feeling of that moon lighting the night sky. But it's definitely going to get much lighter down in that area. All right. So now what I'm going to do is build in some indication of the tree trunks and maybe even some of the branches. I'm going to use a long-haired flat brush. Get any of the existing pigment and storage solution I have out of there. And here's where I may resort to using some ivory black, incorporating it in if the Payne's gray is not getting the tone dark enough. But for the most part, we're going to use Payne's gray. And we're going to get that loaded in the brush here. And we're just going to make sure we have a real solid indication of the main trunk and some of the branches coming off of there. And the same here, even though in my reference you don't see the trunk necessarily on this one. Okay, now we're going to similar sized, hopefully a flat brush here if I could find one. And we are going to start, here we go, reestablishing some of the areas of lighter sky breaks in the trees. So we're going to go ultramarine blue with a little bit of white. And the moon is going to be right in this area. So we're not too worried about that yet. But just putting some reference to it. So keep building in. Some of this blue. we get different shapes, presenting themselves, and as the paint mixes a little bit, that's totally okay, because the shapes that I blocked in for these trees is, kind of representative of the bigger, simpler shape. But in reality, there's these funny effects that happen, especially through pine needles, where the light will filter through, and that's actually one of the cool things about this scene, in my opinion, especially where we start introducing the moon. It almost has the same impact or effect of almost like a stained glass. Finish my thought there. In that the light filters through and kind of bounces off the different layers of pine needles. I'm going to wipe this brush a little bit. So you get different shades of green and gray and white. Now, particularly where the moon is coming through, you get this crazy dynamic. If you ever see close-up photo, especially digital photo, I'm not sure about old school analog, but digital photos, they'll pixelate the rays coming through. It almost looks like a Van Gogh rendition of a moonscape, in that you'll have these pretty well-defined lines that end up coming through the pine needles, which is kind of cool. Actually, what I'll do is do a little dot there in the middle of almost pure white, just to establish what will be close to the brightest spot in the painting. And we'll get some of those lights around. And you'll see this, almost this vibration effect reverberating throughout. And we'll play with that a little bit as we go here. All right, so back to the blue. You'll see some indication of the light bouncing off of branches and pine needles throughout these trees. And I'll go ahead and I'll get those in. And we'll work in some green as well. Excuse me. Use multiple brushes here. I think for the green effects that I'm going to layer in over the top, I'll probably use my fan brush. See, today I had my original plans of going out. The reason why I didn't purely, became a matter of time more than anything else. Plein air painting, I love it. It's a great thing. I'd love to do it every day, but we just it requires a lot more time. Packing up, going through a little bit of a checklist, traveling to the location, even if it's in the backyard, setting up, it just takes more time. All right. Don't want to lose the dark contrast we have going, but just want to get some indication of more of that texture, and also some indication that there's some green, because light will bounce all around, up off the earth. Even if there were no lights coming from residents or what have you, cars, the moonlight itself would bounce and refract. So we want to account for that, and we'll break that up a little bit. Give me a little yellow in some of this here. Especially where the moon might be. Here as well. And just keep going through. Okay. All right, we'll set that aside. Take a step back. Okay. I'm going to reestablish some of those tree trunks, and also use a smaller brush to create some indication of some branches. We'll reestablish some of the sky holes, play with the moon a little bit, introduce some stars within the sky, and maybe some additional branches coming in from taller oak trees, and we'll be done. All right, so we are, I don't know, probably close to 40 minutes in. Probably would have been further along if I didn't drop the phone a couple times. Let's see. Here we go. Payne's gray for the most part here. And we're going to be, that might be too thick here, but let's say, no, that's not bad. We'll look for another brush that might help me get the marks that I'm looking for. work. I have a pretty stiff-haired flat brush that's cut at an angle. And I'll just turn the brush sideways and see what kind of marks I can get on there. Maybe we'll be a little bit of a, yeah, there we go. A little bit of a more effective tool for getting some of these tree branches. And I'll go back into my Payne's gray, and we'll get a similar smaller brush, long-haired round brush, and we'll start making some additional marks indicating some more sky holes, particularly toward the inner parts of these trees by the trunks, and then throughout the top part of the canopy as well. And we'll get some smaller sky holes cut in, probably using our palette knife in a little bit. Get some lighter blue. That's a little too light there. And turn this light off to see if on camera, you get a better sense for what we're doing here. It looks like it. Looks like for now. This might be the better lighting scenario. Go grab my palette knife. Probably using a couple of other tools like our back of our brush handles, and maybe some Q-tips as well to make sure we finish this off the way that we need to. This off and get some of the mixture of green and Payne's gray going, and we'll just reestablish some of the darks that might be floating around in here in this mishmash of colors where the moon is filtering through the pine trees. Honor the fact that occasionally parts of this little stained glass effect that I mentioned earlier will register as green marks. And then more over here. Take a quick look, quick step back. Now, and almost kind of a light green, bluish green. Mixed up here, mostly white. And get that incorporated into the central part of this moon. And there might be some reflections off of certain branches, off of the tree trunk itself. And that'll happen on both. go through and reestablish some of the darkest darks. There we go. Okay. Going with almost pure white now, right into the center of our moon. And you know, I'm not going to get too wrapped up with the fact that this is not a perfect circle. I'm just going to work on first breathing and relaxing and kind of getting some of those kind of vibrational marks on there that I described earlier. Back into the blue, and we'll just pepper the canvas with some of those marks. Whoops, a little too close to the center there. That's all right. And I'm just going to keep working in this circular fashion this way until I get close to, you know, a finished product where I'm feeling like I got the same effect that I saw when I was outside a couple nights ago. And we're close. We're very, very close. Get some of that green on there around some of the outer edges of this kind of glowish kind of orb. And at some point it kind of transitions into more angular and horizontal lines within the trees, but you still get some of those highlights. And just trying to create random marks at this point. And I'll go ahead and reestablish those textures. I think we are almost there. I'm going to go ahead and reestablish the center of that moon. And now I'm going to get some of those stars. Now, I have my reference photo and what I see there, and then I have what I think might be interesting. I know there's a bright star right around there, and there's a few more. Some there, some indication there, there. Yeah, maybe let's put them all around. Just little touches on the palette knife. Don't want them too evenly spaced. And there's some down closer to the horizon. This is the biggest, brightest one here by far. You know, maybe it's part of a cluster of stars. There we go. So there you have it. We have a quick and easy nocturne painting using mainly ultramarine blue, Payne's gray, titanium white, sap green, and based upon a scene that I see almost every clear night when I'm outside walking our dog or putting away gardening tools or doing whatever. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Take good care. Hope to see you next time.